This episode may contain language or discussions that may be offensive or triggering. Refer to the episode summary for details. So, welcome to She Confidential. My name is Charlene Ketchum, and today I am chatting with Miss Adrienne Rolon. She is the owner and creative director of Heart's Content Events and Design. And I found her page on social media because I love looking at all things related to weddings. And so that led me to the website, and I was really impressed because I have never seen a wedding planning company that also offered services and support for sustaining healthy marriages. It's like we focus so much on the wedding day that we don't necessarily give the same attention and care to sustaining the marriage. And so that was really impressive to me. And so I was like, I have to talk to Adrienne. So thank you for being here to chat today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Thank you. And I want to open with like a wedding story. Do you have any favorite wedding stories that you'd like to share?
Oh gosh, there are so many. There are so many.
I
I
bet.
think one of the things that I love so much about my job is number one. Okay, so everybody loves a good groom cry. Everybody loves the groom cry. Everybody loves those
Yes.
photos. Everybody loves to see the groom just sobbing at the front of the altar. But a lot of people, while they're looking at the groom, they forget to look back at the bride and see what her reaction is as well. And what I love is the really great reveal when we open up like that area for the bride to finally see the ceremony space and just listening to her go and just
Oh,
be, in awe of everything that we put together and that it's like to a T exactly what her vision was. And then it just really comes to fruition when she sees the love of her life down at the front of at the front of the aisle too. So I think that's honestly like my favorite wedding moment in general. And like time after time again, like I'm constantly boohooing at every single one of my clients' weddings. It's it's never a thing where that's not happening.
wow. So you haven't the magic of it hasn't worn off. It's still like this magical event at every wedding for you.
Every single one, is just so magical and so beautiful, and I think part of it too is because we develop such a intimate and close relationship with our couples, and every single wedding is unique. Every single wedding has its own ups and downs and challenges and excitements and everything in between, and so, like, when you get to know people that much, like, you become their friends.
What makes a wedding most meaningful? Like you talked about the special moment of seeing the groom. When you said that, I thought about it. I never do see the bride's reaction to that.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, that's something to think about. But what makes a wedding most meaningful?
Yes. So the thing that makes a wedding most meaningful, at least in my expertise and my experience, is when the couple uses all these beautiful details to tell a story and to envelop their wedding guests into their love story, and that they're intentional throughout the entire wedding planning process, choosing their napkins, choosing the type of paper used in their invitations, and so on and so forth, in order to help guests feel like they're an honored guest, like they are a member of their story. And this is like to a T, what we're all about too, making sure that the couples understand that like when you're inviting a wedding guest, you're essentially inviting them into your home. You're inviting them into your orb. And you should, number one, help them feel loved and served throughout that process. Help them understand that, like, yes, like I wanted you here, and
Yeah.
choose details that help them feel that way. But then this is a really beautiful sacred moment where you're sharing this gorgeous day and professing your vows in front of each other with the people that you love the most. And so everything kind of plays a part in that story and embarking on this brand new journey as well. So, yeah, putting themselves into it, being very intentional about the details that they choose, and having a solid reason behind it. That's what really makes the wedding meaningful.
Wow. I love that you say in telling a story because two people coming together that is this journey and this beautiful story.
Yes. Yes, 100%. You have these two different people, two very different people, first and foremost, who have their own upbringing, their own likes, their own dislikes, their
Yeah.
own personalities, but somehow they found their way to each other, which is absolutely beautiful. I have a couple who, oh my gosh, so the groom lived in DC his entire life, but the bride lived in Chicago her entire life, then moved to DC for work. And for the span of about like 2 to 3 years, they had been riding the exact same metro. They had been um, maybe a couple blocks away from each other for work, and they had been taking the same like walking route, and it wasn't until the right moment that they actually saw each other, and it's like everything clicked all of a sudden, which is so beautiful. It's so so little details like that, like really just make the whole day kind of come together, and really acts as an opportunity to help the couple share their story.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Do you give people tips and insights on on ways that they can actually incorporate their story and their journey throughout the for the wedding?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, truthfully, when I provide that insight and when I provide those tips to the couples, it more so has to do with me sitting down and listening to them first. And so, like, I'll just sit down and I say, like, how'd you guys meet? What are your families like? Like, what are your siblings like? How long have your parents been married? Are there any family dynamics that I should know about? And in hearing those little dynamics and hearing and watching their little quirks, and I'm really big on like body language as
Yeah.
well. And hearing those little quirks and hearing how they kind of giggle at each other and talk about each other, then I like usually suggest things like in between, like, oh, this is going to be perfect for you guys, this is going to be so special for you guys. And like, 9 times out of 10, it across the board, it ends up being something that is really really meaningful to them at the end of the day for their wedding day.
Wow. So as you were describing that, I almost thought of like a therapy session almost to a degree when you asked about the family dynamics and all those different things because I've never been married before. So so I haven't been there during this planning stage. And so I'm thinking about people in the audience who may not have been married and just things that you may not anticipate the value of having someone
Mm,
help you plan your wedding because a lot of we're in this era of do everything yourself and a lot of high achieving women are like, oh, I can plan my wedding, I'm good at organizing this and that, and not
yeah.
understanding the value of having someone help you coordinate those things but also the insights that you bring to the table.
Totally, totally. So I'm not a therapist. My sister is actually a therapist, and I very much value everything that she does.
Yeah,
So I'm not a therapist. However, I am an objective party who kind of sits back and listens
yeah,
and watches and is able to, based upon my expertise, based upon my understanding of the couple and what their needs are,
yeah.
able to provide the insight and the things that they need in order to create that experience that is totally them at the end of the day.
Yeah, and for those who may be on the fence about do I need someone to help me plan and coordinate my wedding, what's your response to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I always suggest to couples that they, at the very least, need a day of or month of coordinator. I like to call that wedding management services because really this person is pulling all those last minute details together, dotting every I, crossing every T, and essentially allowing you to enjoy the rest of your engagement so you can show up to your Cinderella ball in your full gown and just enjoy that part of the process. Nobody likes to be a stressed out bride putting together things on the wedding day. Nobody likes to be a stressed out parent having to serve people at the buffet line.
Yeah.
Like, nobody wants that whatsoever. And I certainly don't want it for you. So at least have somebody there who's going to be able to run the ship on the wedding day for sure. Now, if you feel like your life is a little chaotic, a little busy throughout your wedding planning process, I definitely suggest having somebody to guide you through that entire process and be there with you. Does that mean that you're not going to have complete creative and logistical control over all those details? No, definitely set those boundaries with them and talk to them and say, like, this is exactly what I need. I feel like, yes, I would like to be a part of making all those choices at the end of the day, but I don't want to be a part of implementing the choices at the end of the day. And that's where that full service wedding planner really takes over in that capacity.
Okay. So, one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking about the gatherings and making things special and unique for guests, and I was thinking about COVID and how that may
Mm.
have impacted things. Like, I know we weren't doing in person or big weddings for a while, but now people are resuming those kind of events. How has COVID kind of impacted how the kind of support that you're offering people for weddings and the way people are planning weddings?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when COVID initially hit in 2020 and things kind of shut down immediately, I think myself and a lot of my wedding planning colleagues had to like just kind of take a collective whoosah and
Yeah.
kind of strategize how exactly we are going to pivot. In some cases, and in some cases, that meant we had to have some hard conversations, lay out some pros and cons with
Mhm.
some of our couples and say, like, hey, this is what it would look like if you were to reschedule. This is what it would look like if you were to still have your wedding on the specific date. If, of course, regulations were allowing for that to happen as it was.
Yeah.
Or this is what it would look like if you decided, which is their choice, to cancel the celebration altogether.
Yeah.
Um, Now, a lot of couples erred on the side of like, hey, I'm going to postpone the wedding date and I am going to like elope. I'm gonna like have a civil ceremony. I'll go to the courthouse. We'll just go ahead and celebrate this date for what it is and just be able to celebrate that. But then we'll have a big celebration a little bit later on. Some couples opted for the mini weddings. And
Yeah.
so they decided to like shrink down their guest list considerably to like 25 or 50 or depending on
Yeah.
what the mandates were at that specific time.
Mhm.
And only invite those few people, which guest lists are already as difficult as it is,
Yeah.
just in general, but shrinking that down after the fact, after even sending your wedding invitations out, heart-wrenching for sure. But
Yeah.
some couples, like, braved the storm and did that, and then allowed for some sort of, like, virtual streaming option so that other guests would be able to enjoy the day as well. And so, really a lot of it as a wedding planner has, been um, kind of like, providing, like, the full spectrum of possibility, saying, like, not necessarily like, "No, this isn't going to happen," but saying, like, "Okay, it's my job ethically to tell you what the, just what all the pros and cons of this is,
Mhm.
and tell you what you need to do in order to have a safe celebration right now. Because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, like, the wedding is one day. Yes, the wedding is one day. Um,
Mm.
but we want to make sure that you are safe and that you feel comfortable
Mhm.
so that you can
Yeah.
get to the next day and then the next and then the
Right.
next. That's the biggest priority here. Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, it was really a matter of pivoting and providing the wide spectrum of red tape that really was a part of the entire COVID experience truly, especially as it pertained to social events. Some venues were shutting down completely. Some cities in general were shutting down. There were like
Yeah.
mask mandates, so there were lots of questions and whether or not a couple had to um, wear their mask entirely the entire time during a celebration. Which honestly,
Yeah.
even to this day, there are some mandates of that going in and out. It's a lot less
Mhm.
strenuous now than it was at the very beginning of the pandemic. However, those are still things that we have to constantly figure out. And my phone is
Mhm.
constantly on alert for all the cities where I have weddings so that I am the first to know if there are any like brand new mandates or executive orders that come out so that I'm able to provide as much information to the couples to make a really good informed decision.
So are there any long-term impacts from COVID that you anticipate? I mean, you mentioned earlier that people had to cut their guest list in some instances down to 25 people. So do you think that as a result of everything with COVID that people are approaching weddings differently?
Um, truthfully, now that there are vaccines out, now that there are, different, I guess we have a little bit more of our bearing on this, more than we did 2 years ago, 2 whole years ago. Um, but I know. Um, but I think we have a little bit more of our bearings now than we did before, and I think for the most part, couples are just really relying on the expertise of their vendor teams in order to lead them in the right direction. And that
Mhm.
does also mean just being completely aware of not only the local mandates, but also being super duper aware of the policies for each of the vendors. Involved. So, for example, like if a venue were to say, like, hey, we need for everybody to supply their vaccination status, then pivoting and making that happen in a really seamless way. Um, and then also, one thing I saw at the very beginning of the pandemic that I don't see going away anytime soon is that people are starting to incorporate more and more video into the day, which I love to see it. I love to see it. And of course, that was there
Yeah.
before um, the pandemic,
Mhm.
but I'm seeing it even more now where people are hiring a videographer, hiring a cinematographer, and even hiring someone to live stream the day just in case someone had to miss the joy and excitement of the day due to being immunocompromised, due to not being able
Yeah.
to come for some medical reason, or for
Mhm.
some moral and personal reason. um, and that really just helps to keep people connected as much as possible. I feel like that we've learned that in general, that video has helped to keep us together in a lot of
Yeah.
different ways, in the midst of like this tumultuous time that we've been through.
And so do wedding planners or coordinators, can they assist with staying abreast of what those local requirements are and help manage? Because I'm just thinking about the logistical. not, it wouldn't be a nightmare, but just it would be extra work to have to, if tests are required, negative test results or vaccination statuses. So do wedding coordinators help eh, obtain that information from guests? And do wedding coordinators also help maximize the incorporation of video?
Absolutely. So, as a wedding planner, of course, every wedding planner is completely different. So the way that they'll handle that situation might be a little bit different. In my company, we see it as more so our role to provide the necessary information to help them make the best decision and then help to execute it. And so in that case, like we would do our research, see what the mandates are, see what all the venue policies are, see what the vendor policies are, and then from there, like if all guests need to provide a vaccination status, either providing some sort of like online version of that so they can go ahead and upload that before they arrive. Or making it super seamless at the door. So it's a really quick, like club bouncer situation. Like, here's your ID, go
Yeah.
inside. Here's your ID, go inside type thing. Um, or if it's a thing where they need to provide a negative COVID test result, um, then sometimes there are venues and sometimes there are spaces and cities where an at home test might be acceptable. But for some other places, they need you to go to CVS, they need you to go to actually have a test done. Um, that's outside of your own home, that's outside of, just doing it yourself, and then actually show the results, like, on your phone. And so, we will help them find the best way in order to get that information out to their guests so that they're able to have plenty of time to get their results back so that they're able to enjoy the celebration. And the part of that that is also hard is that, like, if there is a negative result, there is some bad news that we're going to have to share with some of the guests and, of course, with the couple as well. So, there's lots of ups and downs with this. At the end of the day, like I said before, we want the couple to stay safe. We want their loved ones to stay safe. And we want to also abide by the policies of the spaces that we're in as well. And by doing that, we're going to have the most successful result during this period of time.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned earlier, it's just the wedding is one day and we want to make sure everybody's okay all the days after that wedding day.
Absolutely.
And so, and thinking, when I think about that, we put such an emphasis on the wedding day itself, and sometimes just thinking about preparing for the
Mhm.
marriage is on the back burner during the wedding planning. And so, in your professional experience and everything, how can people avoid losing sight of what's most important? Not saying the wedding is not important, but how do they not lose sight of the importance of preparing for marriage?
Absolutely. So I am a strong believer that we make conscious and unconscious choices about what is important to us. And the truth of the matter is this, that couples have to prioritize their marriage first. And they have to make the conscious choice to do that. They have to also make the unconscious choice to do that as well. And so basically, what that means is when things are getting busy and the tasks for wedding planning are getting longer and things are starting to get a little stressful, you get a lot of people talking in your ear about this and that and how you should do things to prioritize your relationship first. And sometimes what that looks like in choosing each other and choosing your relationship first is taking a step back, taking a deep breath, a reset, and being like, hey, you know what? Today we're not going to do any wedding planning. And I realize that, like, this might be hard because some people are like, oh my gosh, no, we have deadlines, we have to send this in, we have to make sure we complete this and do that and that and the other. Your wedding can wait, your relationship cannot. Your relationship cannot wait. And so you can afford to take a day away, have a date day, chat with each other about your preferences, relearn each other a little bit, because as you're going through this season of engagement, your lives are changing before your eyes. Um, and just like having that chance to like sit together and just um, be with one another and be present for one another in the midst of the chaos really helps to lay that foundation that you need in order to make sure that years down the road, that marriage stays stable. I'm a strong believer that the things that you do during your engagement manifest themselves years down the road. Like my husband and I are a clear example of that for sure. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And when you talked about intention and all those things, like so important, and we hear about that so much, but we don't think about that in the context of weddings often. And so I really appreciate that you recognize that and that you emphasize that with your couples.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is,
Yeah.
as a wedding planner, as a member of this beautiful, luxurious, multi-million dollar industry, like I would not make any
Yeah.
money if I were to tell a couple like, don't plan your wedding day. Don't have all the beautiful things. Don't like have all the pretty details and spend your money on a beautiful wedding day. Like I wouldn't make any money if I were to say that constantly. However, the truth of the matter is that what I believe in my heart is that you can have your cake and eat it too. You can um, prepare for a beautiful marriage. You can prepare for a beautiful relationship. You can make time for each other in the midst of the chaos and all the excitement and the ups and downs of the engagement process, while also having the beautiful day of your dreams. The two can coexist. They can. But what's important is that couples do need to plan ahead. They need to be able to um, just be very mindful of what's going on around them. And they need to be very mindful as well of each other throughout the entire process. And they need to delegate, you know, um, outsourcing the wedding planning if they need to, and then also taking the time for themselves to enjoy the process and delegating to their loved ones who very much so want to be a part of the wedding planning process. So if Aunt Sarah says like, "Hey, like I really 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 want to be a part of this, but you're not exactly sure how she'll fit into it." A wedding planner will be able to help you like
Hmm.
understand what her gifts are so that you can delegate one piece of things out and outsource
Hmm.
that and be able to, that really gives the couple a little bit more time to just enjoy that period as much as possible and spend more time with each other and choose each other
Yeah,
that much
I
more.
love that idea of really allowing family to be able to kind of help take on some of those roles and responsibilities to kind of ease your day. Although I would imagine that could get messy too with too many cooks in the kitchen.
It can. It can. It can, yes, and I think part of my role is to just like I was saying before, like understanding the family dynamics, the family personalities and things, and knowing who can actually
Mhm.
handle stepping in and aiding the couple in a specific role, and who cannot do that because this is going to cause a whole lot of
Yeah.
emotional turmoil and toxicity in the end. And it's my job to avoid that as much as possible, not necessarily
Yeah.
to say no, this is not happening, but more so to steer them in the right direction so that they're able to have the end result that is the wedding of their dreams, yes, but then also encourages and cultivates this beautiful relationship and happy ending that they really do want.
I think we were talking about people being afraid to give love a chance with all of the fears with the divorces and just all the things that you hear about marriages aren't lasting. And so, what are your thoughts on
Absolutely.
that?
Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge the way that people feel about that, and just understanding, like, yeah, it can definitely be scary when something is happening to a group of people that you love, and having the fear that that's also going to happen to you. That fear does make sense, and I want to validate that. I do want to encourage couples to develop some tunnel vision, though, and rely on the hope and foundation that they've set for one another, and not view another person's success or another person's, difficulty in their relationship as the end all be all for themselves, because somebody else's struggles, somebody else's roller coasters are not your own. You don't have to take on that cup. And truthfully, nobody asked you to, in all truthfulness. So you have to develop that tunnel vision. Instead of focusing on what can't be, focus on what can be for your own relationship. That's what's really important.
I love that. I love that. Oh my goodness. Okay, I love that. That's yeah, we got to block out the traumas of other people because a lot of times we internalize things that
We
have
do.
nothing to do with us and
We
have not
do.
happened to
We
us.
do.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I
Yes.
honor the empathy of others. I mean, I think that is what makes humanity great, honestly. To a certain degree, you do have to be a little selfish, and you do have to be like, "Hey," instead of catastrophizing, and instead of being like, "I am worried about how things are gonna go for me," since, um, generations before, there were things that just didn't work in this specific scenario. But you're a different person than your mom and your dad and your forefathers. You're their wildest dreams, in fact. And so it's important to remember that. Not only that, but also remember that you are a different person, and that you have a path all of your own. So follow that path, develop that tunnel vision, and I feel like you can kind of apply that principle to like other areas of your life, not just your marriage as well. Um, yeah, and when you are able to do that, when you're able to follow your own path, then you're able to really walk forward into the fullness of your gifts. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we all need to listen to that clip over and over again. And so, what's on the horizon this year in terms of your wedding planning and everything? I know I want to talk a little bit about your marriage services that you offer clients, and I guess is it only available to previous clients or everyone? I'd love to hear a little bit more about those
Totally,
services as
totally. So
well.
we kind of intermingle a little bit of, just a little bit of marriage encouragement as we go along in the wedding planning process. It isn't like specific service within our business. However, we do just stress in general the importance of laying that solid foundation, and developing that tunnel vision, like I said before, and really spending the time that they need in order to develop their relationship, and cultivate and foster those relationships that are really important to them throughout their entire wedding planning process, throughout their engagement. And just like I said before, everything that they do in the engagement manifests itself many, 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 many years down the road. And I always encourage couples, in order to prepare for marriage, that they do need to invest in premarital counseling. And a lot of people, there's a stigma that that's only for couples that like their relationships are in turmoil, or things might be going up and down in a emotional roller coaster, things aren't really going so well. That's not true. Sometimes it's about laying the foundation, laying that groundwork. If you think about like brick masonry, if you don't get those bricks laid right, then you have to knock everything down and start over again. Why not lay that foundation exactly as it should be now? And then as you get up to the roof, years down the line, then you've already established a strong, meaningful relationship. Like, that's the relationship I would want starting off. That's exactly what my husband and I did when we were preparing for our own marriage. And even things as small as like how the toilet paper laid started some big arguments between us 2, and so the premarital counselor came in and was like, "Okay, let's establish some boundaries, let's establish some roles, let's meet in the middle now so that we're not having those petty arguments later on down the road."
I love that when you mentioned the toilet paper, I thought about the argument with the ketchup. Does the ketchup go in the
Oh
fridge
my
or in the
gosh.
cabinet? And that's a little thing, but I can't stand cold ketchup. So that, we have to have 2 bottles of ketchup because that's going to be a
And that
problem for me.
works, that works.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Or
Yeah.
I think what I hear couples, argue about a lot, not only the toilet paper, but then, like, who does the dishes? Yes. Who's gonna be doing the dishes? And so one of the things we talked about in our relationship during the, premarital counseling process is that, like, we actually had workbooks based upon, like, what our roles are going to be in the house, and the beautiful thing of that is that it didn't necessarily conform to, like, the the male has to do this or the female has to do that. It was more so like, how can we agree upon the overarching success of our household? How can we be Roland Incorporated? How can we like work towards the success of the corporation, which is our household? Um, and like even certain things like washing dishes, we like came to the consensus like I'll cook. I love cooking. That I see that as, a an
Oh.
act of service, which is, like, really big for me in love languages. But as long as I cook, like, I cannot touch a dirty dish, and it's just like a textural thing for me. I can't do it. I cannot do it. And so if he washes the dishes, I'll cook for you all day long, sir. I will 1000% do it. And I also won't get on you about how you wash the dishes either. Like you can wash them by hand. You can use the dishwasher if you want to. As long as they're clean by the time I pull them back out to cook again, I'm good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
100% good. And we came to that agreement ahead
Yeah.
of time and like we will be married for 9 months. No, sorry, not 9 months, 9 years as of March 16th of this year. And so
Oh,
we're coming up on
wow.
10 years now and we're a lot of the principles that we laid
Yeah.
the foundation for like before marriage, we still abide by those things now and they still work for us. But then also being very keen to understand that some of the things that we worked on then may not necessarily work now, and we do have to pivot and we do have to circle back around and check in on each other and be like, hey, okay, so this worked then. How can we fix this to fit our norm now? And just constantly being aware of each other and our wants and desires. 'Cause, we're completely different people. Like, I'm the creative one, I'm the
Yeah.
visionary, I'm the dreamer, I'm the one that has these huge ideas. My husband is a software engineer, and he's very mathematical,
Oh,
and
wow.
he is very logical, and that's exactly the way he is. So we balance each other out, because I am the one who is spontaneous, and I'm, like, the person who pulls him out of his comfort zone. He's very introverted, like, reasonably so, like, and so I'm the one who pulls him out of his comfort zone and allows him to see the possibilities of, the circumstances that are around him. And then he's the one that kinda brings me back into reality sometimes, and he's like, "Okay, that's a really great idea, and not but and let's think about the process that is required in order to make this idea happen." And we come to a
Yeah.
happy medium by doing that for sure.
Wow. I I really appreciate you sharing your example of just how you've been able to blossom and grow and within your own marriage and that you pointed out that things
Yes.
change. the agreements that you make before you get married. Life happens, you have babies, your jobs change, and we
Oh
have
my gosh,
pandemics and things change.
everything.
Everything changes. Yeah, it's like I never did Zoom prior
Me
to
neither.
COVID.
Me neither. All my meetings were in
Really?
person. We always met in person, and then we had to pivot and, make
Yep.
sure that our couples feel more comfortable. Of
Yep.
course, now, like with the mandates being a little bit more chill these days, at least in the state of Virginia, it is. There are some
Yes.
couples who are comfortable meeting in person, so we'll do that. But then there are some couples who are like, "Hey, I would so much rather if we do a lot of our meetings over Zoom." I'm like, great, whatever works for me. Thank you for
Yeah.
establishing that boundary with me so that I can best serve you in this capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned, the ways that you've pivoted in your business. So what's on the horizon? What do you have planned next in terms of your programs and
Yeah,
services?
yeah. So, we are, of course, continuing to serve our couples in a really big and beautiful way. Hospitality focused, marriage focused, people focused first, and tying all those beautiful details together to envelop their guests and envelop even the couple into their own love story. That's what we really specialize in. That's our heart of hearts at the end of the day. And we also, as a team of like kind of come together and we have said, you know what, like there are so many couples out there that need guidance and they need the tools and they need the resources in order to do what we do, in order to plan a wedding with intention, in order to lay that foundation, in order to um, have a wedding day that they can actually sit back and be like, you know what? I did this. I did this, and I'm proud of this. And I have um, I have the organization needed in order to just plan this day that is just beautifully and uniquely them. Um, but some people may not have the budget for it, and some people may not have the resources in order to hire a full service planner, or even sometimes hire a day of coordinator. So we developed a virtual wedding planning and exclusive community experience called the Bridal Tea. It's going to launch on April the 27th of this year. I'm so very excited about it. I'm
Hey
so
now.
excited
Oh
about
my
it.
goodness.
And essentially, this experience really allows for couples nationwide to have a lot of the tools, a lot of the resources, a lot of the guidance that they need in order to plan this beautiful wedding on their own if they don't have the resources to do it and outsource that wedding planning process. And the lovely thing about it too is that we also are really big on developing relationship and developing community. And the truth of the matter is that wedding planning is stressful as it is, but feeling like you're alone in the wedding planning process is scary and it's upsetting and it's frustrating for anybody involved. And so we provide an exclusive community where couples can, go in there, ask their questions. My team and I will be in there 24/7 providing around the clock guidance, answering their questions, providing the guidance that they need from afar. And then, even providing a forum for them to feel validated and just vent about, their future mother-in-law who might be causing some drama, or just like the family dynamics or something that they
Yep.
plan that may not be going exactly the way they want it to. Um, and essentially, the thing that I love so much about my job as a wedding planner is that I get to know people. I get to foster relationships and developing this community as well as providing the resources. I get to do both of those lovely things together for so many couples around the United States. So I'm super duper excited for the bridal tea again launching on April the 27th.
And can you share your website? It's going to be in the description box, but just can you also offer that for those who are like, oh my gosh, I need to
Yes.
be in the loop
So
on this?
my website is www.hearts with an S at the end content, CONTENT, events, EVENTS.com. And then there is an actual tab on there for the bridal tea, so they get to see a little bit of information about what we're doing. And then there is also a space there for you to go on the wait list. So if you hear this and you're really interested in this, definitely go on that wait list, because you will be the first to know when it launches. And there might even be something a little yummy in there for you too. So um, definitely come join us. I would
Wonderful.
absolutely love to have you.
I am so excited for you. And I can't wait for you to see yourself talk about this because you were like
I'm so excited.
radiating.
This is
Like it's like
this
you're
has
so
been
excited. I mean, I
this
can
has been like
see
a
it.
couple years in the making, and it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, yes, yes, like at the heart of who we are at Heart's Content, like I'm very much Enneagram 2. I love to help and serve as many people as I possibly can. And this is gonna allow me to do just that and use my gifts to like just spread that love and spread that joy and spread the spirit of organization and planning successful weddings, across the United States. And I'm super excited about it.
That is
Oh,
wonderful.
thank
I'm so
you.
proud of you and
Thank
excited for
you.
you. Like, yay! Oh my gosh. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm gonna go on the wait list. So I'm gonna manifest. Yeah, I'm gonna be
Come on,
planning a
girl.
wedding. So
Come on.
I'm gonna get on that wait list. Yeah, I'm gonna get on the wait list. So
I
I'm
love it.
excited for you. And so, yes. So thank you. Is there anything that you would like to leave brides to be or couples to be with before we wrap up? Outside of y'all need to go to the website and get on that wait list.
Yes, yes. So, um, if I could give any couple any advice, if I could give um, me and my Josh, my husband, any advice when we were preparing to get married, it would be to just really lean into your loved ones, lean into them as much as possible. And also hire a photographer, hire a photographer, hire a photographer. And I can't stress this enough, hire a professional wedding photographer. And I know you're tempted to hire that friend from church. I know you are tempted to hire that beautiful person over there who is just learning how to use their camera, and I get it. But and the reason I say that is because like when we were planning our own wedding day, and I see this over and over and over again. We um, chose to do something a little bit similar to that, hire a friend to do our photography. Things didn't quite go well with that part of the process. However, when we chose, we're just like, okay, I'm done with this. We're hiring a professional photographer. And when I say that a lot of those photos, especially those of loved ones who are no longer here with us today, and capturing all those beautiful moments in between, we're able to actually like remember all those gorgeous details, all those beautiful moments in between, and just um it just really makes a huge difference. Not only are you able to celebrate your investment in this beautiful wedding day by cherishing it in the medium of photography. Yes, yes, but you're also celebrating and like forever, framing these beautiful moments that you may not have the opportunity to have with some loved ones who may not be with you down the road. I say that like from a personal standpoint, and I look through, I think this past week my husband and I looked through our wedding album, and my mom was actually sick at the time while we were planning our wedding. She had a brain tumor, and I had quit my job, and I had decided to be a full-time caregiver for my mom. And it's just a complete pivot for me. Um, but then having some periods of time where she would lose her ability to walk and lose her mobility and so on and so forth. But she had determined, and it was completely unbeknownst to me, that she was going to walk down the aisle. Oh my gosh, she was going to walk down the aisle on my wedding day. And she did that, and the
That's
photographer
so beautiful.
captured that moment. And even though she's no
Oh
longer
my
with us,
gosh.
like, that's something that I still cherish to this day, that she was so mindful of me
Yeah.
that she wanted to do that and give that to me as a gift. That was the greatest gift to me, and the fact that that
Mm.
is forever, memorialized through imagery just means so much to me almost 10 years down the line. And so invest in professional photography, my friends. Please do. You'll thank me later.
And I thank you now. Thank you for your patience with
Oh, girl,
all the technology stuff, y'all.
it's all
Internet
good.
has been hating on me today. So, thank you so much for your patience and thank you for everything that you do. I mean, truly, when I discovered your Instagram and everything in your website, like your passion and care for just being of service and helping people have healthy, fulfilling marriages shined through. And so I thank you for doing what you do and honoring your calling and everything.
It's
So
absolutely my
thank
honor.
you.
Thank
It's
you. Thank you
important.
for,
Yeah,
opening up
it's
your
important.
space to me and other people, of color like me to, like, just share their gifts in this way. Really appreciate you for that as well. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. And everything will be in the description box, including the links to get on that wait list because we are
Come
ready
on,
for
come on.
it. And and so thank you. And this is She Confidential. Make sure y'all subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. And until next time.